Start of Gabriel's career, and it will be against a Brian Flores coached defense. With the move, Shedeur Sanders remains third on the depth chart. Joe Flacco slides to number 2 behind Gabriel. Stephen A., how long do you think it will be until we get to see Shedeur on the field?
Somewhere around 6 to 7 weeks. Okay. And then after that, I think you'll see when this season is officially over and it's about 5 or 6 games left in the season, I think you'll see Shedeur at some point in terms of what he has to bring to the table or whatever. Obviously, this is the right move. I don't understand. Listen, I don't understand why you can't put Shedeur as your QB2.
That's
me personally. I don't get that part. And here's the reason I'm saying that. Flacco knows Father Time has caught up to him that he's not what he used to be. Yeah. He's happy to be on the NFL roster to contribute in any way that he possibly can. He knows that he's a stopgap for the young guns coming up career. He knows that. So there's nothing wrong with putting him at the QB3 spot. He's there as a security blanket to some degree. He's not what he was just a couple of years ago when Deshaun Watson went down and he guided the Cleveland Browns to the postseason before they lost to the Houston Texans. He's not what he used to be then, okay? But still in all, he still belongs on an NFL roster because he brings a lot to the table in terms of helping youngsters on the come-up. So I don't know why they don't have him at the QB3 and Shedeur at the QB2. I think that's trying to send the wrong message to a lot of folks. Maybe they don't want folks clamoring for Shedeur prematurely or whatever. But in the end, the bottom line is this. I think it's clear, unless Dillon Gabriel just plays lights out and Cleveland is challenging for a postseason berth, which I don't see happening with that offense, which is ranked 31st and second to last in the league and 30th in their running attack, okay? I don't see that happening. If he played lights out, it would be different. But because I don't see that happening, I think around week 12, week 13, we can expect to see Shedeur Sanders.
I agree with you, Stephen A., with a little bit of apprehension because I think it's so petty that he's the number 3 quarterback still. We know the inevitable. We knew the inevitable about Joe Flacco starting the rest of the season. We were talking about in the preseason who would be QB2. After the Shedeur Sanders performance, I said it should be a competition for who the backup is.
The Friday night performance.
The Friday night performance.
Yep.
And then Dillon Gabriel played later after he got off an injury, and he was solid in his preseason debut. But ultimately, to have Shedeur Sanders at number 3 to me feels like it's not about football. Because you know Joe Flacco, Joe Flacco is giving you the sample size to know that he's not going to be on the field. So you got 2 young quarterbacks that you drafted, that's been in your system now for about 5 or 6 months, that you see development. And Mad Dog, here's the thing. If you're telling me that throughout the limited reps that Shedeur Sanders has gotten, that he's still not good enough to be your backup quarterback once you get off of your veteran starter, then that's an issue. And you know that he can't play for you. But if you have him number 3 because of anything else, the illusion of people calling for him or thinking that him being the second quarterback on the roster is going to put pressure on Dillon Gabriel and some sort of culture is going to happen, that's absolutely wrong. If you don't think the kid good enough to be your second string quarterback, that's a completely different conversation. But the point is, and it still remains, that those 2 are in a better position for you to see what you have than Joe Flacco. So this is what the Cleveland Browns are telling us. Dillon Gabriel doesn't play well, like Stephen A. said, 6 or 7 weeks. You going to bring Joe Flacco back? For what? That's my question.
I don't think they will bring Flacco back. I think the 3-2 thing is not that big a deal to me because I do think what Stevie said is right. I think by the end of the day, unless Gabriel is Brian Sipe, I think at the end of the day, you will see Shedeur play some this year. I think by the end of the year, you, me, and Stevie, and everybody who cares will have an idea if the quarterback of the future on the Browns is on the roster.
Yep.
And I think he'll give both a chance to show what they can do in the next 13, 14 weeks. I don't know the issues about why Flacco is 2. Maybe they don't feel it's too hard to get both quarterbacks ready on a game in Europe. So if Gabriel gets hurt, you got a rookie there, so that's tricky. At least if Gabriel got hurt, you put Flacco back in the game. He knows the offense. Maybe Shedeur needs more work. That could be the reason.
Yep.
I am going to trust Stefanski. I think Stefanski is a good man. I think he's a pretty good coach. He hasn't had a lot to work with. I think he's a pretty good man, and I'm going to trust him that he is not pushing Shedeur aside because of Deion's influence or anything like that. That's the way I'm going to look at it.
I've always had a soft spot for Stefanski.
His father.
Because I know his father as Stefanski. I've known him for many, many years. Love the man dearly. Hope to see you soon, buddy. And Stefanski is a two-time coach. Yeah, the man can coach. Yeah. We know he knows something or two about football, but we can't ignore the politics that come along with Shedeur. And that's why the situation is a little bit different, Doggy, which is what I keep trying to tell you. You're looking at it, QB1, QB2, QB3, it's not that big of a deal. Well, it also wasn't a big deal that the average quarterback would go in the 4th round or the 5th round. In Shedeur Sanders' case, 144th overall, it mattered. Yeah. You know that, Peter. You know that. Swag. It matters because it was Shedeur Sanders, and we got the impression that it wasn't just football, it was something about his dad. So what I'm saying to you is that we're beyond all of that now to some degree, and we get that part. But that doesn't mean the residue doesn't still exist in terms of people wanting to control the narrative when it comes to that young man. You're not saying that you're not going to make football decisions. What you're saying is that there are other things that come into play when it comes to making a decision about that young man, whether it's him, whether it's his father, whether it's people in Cleveland, because he's incredibly popular. And you got people clamoring to see Shedeur Sanders play in Cleveland. They want that brother on the field. They want to see what he has. And so you want to diminish or offset the pressure some degree from an organizational standpoint where they're pushing and clamoring for you to put him on the football field. You want to ward off of that because you want to make sure you're running your shop and the fans aren't. Those kind of things come into play in this particular situation. From a football standpoint, you're absolutely right. QB2, QB3, normally not this important. But there's a reason they still left him at the QB2, at the QB3, when Joe Flacco is the QB2.
I would add that they traded away that 2nd overall pick to move back to 5, and they got a 1st-round pick in return from the Jaguars for next year.
Right.
So that's if there's an hourglass, the sands are coming down, because as every week goes by, that's another week that Shedeur Sanders will not get the opportunity to prove that I am the quarterback of the future, because they will have 2 first-round picks next year.
And see that. Go ahead.
Well, they got to give Gabriel a chance too. I mean, he might be pretty good. Who knows?
I just got to know that he played 64 games over 6 college seasons for 3 different programs, all right? And he turns 25 in December. So he's an elder in terms of a guy coming into the league. He's got experience and whatever. You give him, but he's your QB1. That's why he's your starter. So we get that part. Nobody's questioned that he deserves this opportunity to start. What we're saying is it's clear that Shedeur should be a QB2. Why are you acting like he should be the QB3 behind
that's
Joe
my
Flacco?
point. Like you pull Joe Flacco for development now. You're telling everybody we're trying to develop and find out who our quarterback could potentially be. So him not being number 2 when we in a game situation and 3 quarterbacks in the game, and you go back to Flacco, you are literally stunting the development of a guy that we may think could be the starter for your football team. That's where I am with it. Now, I'm like you in this sense. I'm apples and oranges, right? If you ain't good enough, you shouldn't play.
Absolutely.
I don't care if your name's Shedeur Sanders, Joe Montana, Peyton Manning, Arch Manning. If you can't play, if you're not good enough to execute, you shouldn't be on the football field. I don't give a damn what your last name is or who your daddy is. But ultimately, it's about the opportunity. And you telling me that Flacco is the backup, Gabriel doesn't play well, you're now not developing Shedeur.